Some corners of the world seem to hold the most authentic essence of life. They are born from the wisdom of ancient communities and from the harmony between man and nature. Others preserve millennial traditions, resisting time with their simplicity. They are extraordinary places in their own right, born from love for one's land and the search for perfect balance. Sometimes they hide among inaccessible mountains or seem suspended in time. Yet they exist and conquer our hearts. Today we set out on a journey to discover the most enchanting villages ever inhabited by man. Among these hidden pearls and masterpieces that have preserved the soul of peoples. Wae Rebo, Indonesia. Hidden among the mountains of Flores, this traditional village houses only 7 main conical houses called bangunan. These 5-story structures indeed are built entirely from bamboo and straw, following techniques passed down through generations. The Manggarai community, which lives here, maintains an ancestral lifestyle, cultivating coffee and producing traditional textiles. The village functions like one large extended family, where decisions are made collectively and visitors are welcomed into communal houses. To reach the village furthermore, you need 3 hours of trekking through the rainforest. UNESCO has recognized it as cultural heritage. Lauterbrunnen, Switzerland. This valley, 984 feet or 300 meters deep, opens between vertical rock walls, from which 72 waterfalls descend. The village counts 800 inhabitants and serves as a base for exploring the Jungfrau region. The Staubach waterfall plunges for 974 feet, or 297 meters, directly into the village center, creating a water curtain visible from every corner. The green meadows of the valley floor contrast with the snow-capped peaks, which exceed 13,123 feet, or 4,000 meters. The traditional wooden houses instead host families who live off alpine agriculture and mountain tourism. Bibury, United Kingdom. In the Gloucestershire countryside, Bibury embodies the essence of rural England with its honey-colored stone houses. Arlington Row, which is formed by a row of 14th century cottages, is considered one of the most photographed views in England. The houses were originally used as wool storage, testimony to the importance of the textile industry in the region. There is also the River Colne, which flows peacefully among green meadows and weeping willows, while trout leap in its waters. Santo Stefano di Sessanio, Italy. Perched at 4,101 feet or 1,250 meters on the Gran Sasso Mountains in Abruzzo, this medieval village counts 115 inhabitants. The houses are built from local white limestone, with red tile roofs and small windows which overlook the valley. The historic center maintains the original 14th century appearance, with cobblestone streets and carved portals. The cylindrical tower that dominates the village belonged to the Medici family, who controlled the seasonal livestock movement traffic between plains and pastures. Riquewihr, France. Surrounded by vineyards in Alsace, this medieval village has been producing Riesling wine for over 600 years. The colorful half-timbered houses face stone streets with wrought iron signs indicating cellars and shops. The 13th century city walls still completely enclose the historic center. The narrow streets of the center win between artisan shops and local specialty stores, where typical Alsatian products and traditional souvenirs are sold. Small cobblestone squares host ancient stone fountains, which once served as water supply points for the inhabitants and drinking troughs for animals. Hoi An, Vietnam. Along the Thuban River develops an ancient port city where Chinese, Japanese, and French architectures testify to centuries of international trade. Colored lanterns illuminate the evenings along the river, while traditional boats transport tourists among floating markets and ancient temples. The historic center preserves merchants' houses with internal courtyards, while the Japanese bridge connects the Chinese and Vietnamese quarters. Hoi An represents the most authentic Asia, where millennial traditions survive in a port that has never lost its commercial soul. Albarracín, Spain. In the heart of Aragon hides an inhabited center perched on a rocky hill, which seems suspended in time. The red brick and wood houses follow the natural course of the terrain, creating narrow and winding alleys, which wind among medieval walls. The 14th century city walls embrace the entire settlement, while the cathedral dominates the surrounding panorama. During Arab domination indeed, the center took its name from the Banu Razin family, who governed the area for centuries. Chefchaouen, Morocco. In the Rif Mountains sits a small town where every building is painted in different shades of blue. The paved streets climb the slopes while houses follow one another in a labyrinth of alleys and courtyards. Tradition has it that the Sephardic Jews who arrived here in the 15th century began painting the houses blue to remember the sky and the divine. The historic center is characterized by an intricate network of cobblestone streets and small squares, where artisan shops alternate with traditional houses with characteristic blue doors. Shirakawa-go, Japan. In the Shogawa River Valley, rises a village where traditional Japanese houses have resisted heavy winter snowfall for centuries. The buildings called Gasho Zukuri have sloping roofs built without nails, only with ropes and wooden joints. These structures allow snow to slide away easily and resemble hands joined in prayer. The village, moreover, still maintains the traditional agricultural system today, with terraced rice fields and mulberry cultivation for silkworm breeding. Recognized as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, it attracts all those visitors who want to discover authentic rural Japan. Freudenberg, Germany. In North Rhine-Westphalia sits a historic center where all houses follow the same pattern: white walls, dark beams, and gray roofs. This uniform appearance is the result of a reconstruction, which occurred after a 17th century fire. The center develops around the Protestant church, while half-timbered houses align along stone streets. The name instead derives from Freudenberg, which means free mountain, referring to mining rights granted by local feudal lords. Nepal, Indonesia. This mountain village sits at 7,874 feet or 2,400 meters altitude on the island of Java, surrounded by potato and cabbage plantations. The traditional house is made of wood and bamboo with sloping roofs and wide verandas, adapt perfectly to the mountain climate, and offer shelter from the frequent fog. Moreover, they are colored in different ways and cling to the steep slopes of Mount Sumbing, creating a suggestive terraced landscape. The cool climate and morning fog remind one of Himalayan landscapes, from which the name derives. Setenil de las Bodegas, Spain. In Andalusia, there exists a village where houses are built directly into the rock, exploiting natural caves as walls and ceilings. The dwellings develop along the gorges carved by the Rio Trejo, creating covered streets where limestone replaces roofs. Cuevas del Sol and Cuevas de la Sombra are the two main streets where these cave dwellings are concentrated. The name Bodegas instead derives from the ancient cellars carved into the rock used to preserve wine and oil. Monemvasia, Greece. On a rocky islet connected to the mainland by a narrow strip of land, rises a medieval citadel hidden from view of the sea. To access it, you must cross a bridge and then climb along paths carved into the rock. The upper town preserves the ruins of Byzantine churches and Venetian palaces, while in the lower town life continues with taverns and shops. The name means single access and describes the strategic position that made this place an impregnable fortress. During the Byzantine era, indeed, it was an important commercial center, while under the Venetians it became a crucial naval base. Trogir, Croatia. On a small island between the mainland and the island of Chefchaouen, develops a historic center where every stone tells 2,000 years of history. Roman walls mix with Renaissance palaces, while Romanesque bell towers soar next to Venetian loggias. The historic center, furthermore, is crossed by a main street which connects the two city gates. This village maintains its maritime tradition, with the port welcoming fishing boats and tourist yachts. Iruya, Argentina. In northwestern Argentina, among the Puna Mountains, hides a village where time seems to have stopped at the colonial era. Adobe houses climb the rocky slopes, while narrow and steep streets connect the different levels of the settlement. The 17th century church dominates the main square, surrounded by colonial buildings with internal courtyards and porticos. The local population, moreover, still maintains ancestral traditions linked to mountain agriculture and pastoralism. Portofino, Italy. In a natural bay of the Ligurian Riviera, mirrors itself a fishing village where colorful houses reflect in the clear waters. The small port welcomes fishing boats and luxury yachts, while the small square is the beating heart of social life. The dwellings, painted in pastel tones, follow the course of the coast, creating a natural amphitheater. The local economy has transformed over time from fishing to tourism, but still preserves the authentic atmosphere of a maritime village. La Roque-Gageac, France. Along the Dordogne develops a village that seems to grow directly from the limestone rock wall. Stone houses climb the different levels of the cliff, while tropical gardens prosper thanks to the microclimate created by the rock. The river flows peacefully at the foot of the settlement, reflecting the ochre facades and slate roofs. This position has allowed the development of unusual Mediterranean vegetation, with palms, bamboo, and citrus fruits growing luxuriantly. Barichara, Colombia. In the Santander region sits a colonial town built entirely from local limestone, which shines under the tropical sun. White houses with red tile roofs face stone streets, while wooden balconies decorate colonial facades. The cathedral dominates the main square, surrounded by stately houses with internal patios blooming with bougainvillea. The town, moreover, also preserves numerous artisanal traditions, including stonework and goat cheese making, which is a local specialty. Castellfollit de la Roca, Spain. Imagine a basalt balcony which defies gravity from over 164 feet or 50 meters in height. The volcanic stone houses literally cling to the precipice, forming a single compact wall which dominates the Fluvia River Valley. The Church of San Salvador emerges among the dwellings, with its bell tower pointing toward the sky, while the foundations sink into the basaltic rock. The cobblestone streets instead lead to beautiful panoramas over the Catalan plain. Takayama, Japan. Among the Japanese Alps extends a small town that has preserved its historic quarters intact from the Edo period. Dark wooden houses with straw and tile roofs align along streets, while traditional buildings still house rice wine factories and craft shops. The Samachi-Suji district preserves historic inns and merchants' residences, with characteristic wooden grills at the windows. The city, furthermore, is famous for its festivals, where decorated floats parade through narrow streets, accompanied by traditional music. San Gimignano, Italy. On the hills of Tuscany towers a medieval town dominated by stone towers, which rise toward the sky. Of the original 72 towers, only 14 remain, built by noble families as symbols of power and wealth. Two main squares dominate the heart of the settlement, surrounded by medieval palaces and artisan shops. The 13th century walls instead still enclose the entire historic center today, while cobblestone alleys lead to panoramic terraces. Gordes, France. In the Luberon region, clings to a rocky hill a village built entirely from local limestone. Ochre-colored houses climb the slopes, following the natural curves of the terrain, creating a harmonious whole with the surrounding landscape. The Renaissance castle dominates the settlement, while the Church of San Firmino preserves 16th century artworks. The village, moreover, is surrounded by lavender fields, which in summer color the hills purple, creating one of Provence's most photographed landscapes. Kazimierz Dolny, Poland. On the banks of the Vistula River rises a Renaissance village that was one of Poland's main river ports. Merchants' houses, decorated with graffiti and family coats of arms, face the market square, dominated by the Gothic town hall. Medieval granaries testify to the importance of grain trade, which made the city prosperous in the 16th century. The ruins of the medieval castle instead overlook the settlement, while paths lead to limestone caves carved into the surrounding hills. Ushguli, Georgia. Among the Caucasus Mountains, At over 6,562 feet, or 2,000 meters altitude, rises one of Europe's highest inhabited villages. Stone houses and medieval defensive towers, called koshkebi, stand against the profile of Mount Shkara, which is Georgia's highest peak. The inhabitants belonging to the Svan community still preserve ancient traditions and their own language today. Winter isolation, when snow blocks roads for months, has preserved an archaic way of life linked to pastoralism and mountain agriculture. Telluride, United States. In an isolated valley of the Colorado Rocky Mountains, hides a mining town transformed into a luxury ski destination. Colorful Victorian wooden houses align along the main street, while surrounding mountains exceed 13,123 feet, or 4,000 meters in altitude. The town was born during the 19th century gold rush and still preserves the atmosphere of the American Far West today. During the Christmas holidays, moreover, the streets light up with twinkling lights and the snow transforms the town into a magical mountain village. Ancient town of Fenghuang, China. Along the Tuojiang River develops an ancient city where traditional Chinese architecture and Miao ethnic minorities create a unique heritage. Wooden houses on stilts mirror themselves in the river, while millennial stone bridges connect the Qing Dynasty historic quarters. Traditional Chinese houses with internal courtyards preserve carved decorations, while Taoist temples dot the surrounding hills. Night markets sell Miao specialties and local crafts, while bamboo boats transport tourists along the river waters. Burano, Italy. In the Venice Lagoon sits an island where every house is painted with bright colors, which reflect in the canals. The dwellings follow a centuries-old tradition. Indeed, each family chooses a different color to distinguish their house from the lagoon fog. The crooked bell tower of San Martino Church towers over the settlement and is inclined due to the lagoon's unstable terrain. Fishermen, furthermore, still leave at dawn today with their colorful boats, while elderly women work lace, which is an ancient art, sitting in front of their houses. Sidi Bou Said, Tunisia. It's a village where every house is painted white and blue. Traditional Tunisian dwellings with their internal courtyards and decorated doors follow Andalusian architecture brought by Spanish refugees. Paved streets are flanked by bougainvillea and jasmine, while terraces offer panoramic views over the Bay of Tunis. The village, moreover, owes its name to a 13th century Sufi saint and still preserves a mystical and relaxed atmosphere today. Azenhas do Mar, Portugal. On Portugal's Atlantic coast clings to a cliff a small fishing village with white houses. The dwellings descend in steps toward the ocean, while a small beach hides among the rocks at the village's feet. Traditional Portuguese houses with red tile roofs and lime-whitened walls create a stark contrast with the Atlantic's blue. Moreover, a natural pool carved into the rocks allows swimming, protected from ocean waves. Clovelly, England. On Devon's coast plunges toward the sea a village where cars cannot circulate due to the steepness of the streets. White houses with slate roofs descend along a stone road, so steep it's called up along and down along. The village has remained private property of the same family for over 800 years, thus preserving its original appearance. The small port at the cliff's base instead hosts fishing boats and offers a unique view of the houses, which seem to fall toward the sea. Mandrakia, Greece. On the volcanic island of Milos hides a fishing village where colorful houses are carved directly into the volcanic rock. The local buildings, called Sirmata, were used as boat storage during the winter and as summer homes for fishermen. Doors and windows, painted in bright colors, contrast with the volcanic rocks, creating a unique landscape in the Aegean. The small natural port, furthermore, protects boats from winds, while crystal-clear waters allow viewing the volcanic seabed. Banff, Canada. Among the peaks of the Canadian Rocky Mountains sits a town that is the gateway to Canada's oldest national park. Main streets are flanked by Alpine-style buildings, while elk stroll peacefully through downtown streets. The city is surrounded by turquoise lakes, glaciers, and peaks exceeding 9,843 feet or 3,000 meters, creating a breathtaking natural scenery. During winter, moreover, it becomes a world-famous ski destination, while summer attracts hikers and climbers from around the globe. Morro de São Paulo, Brazil. On a tropical island in Bahia, is a village where cars are banned and movement is only on foot or horseback. Beaches numbered 1 to 5 offer different sceneries, from nightlife to wild coves protected by coral reefs. Fishermen's colorful houses instead alternate with family hotels, while coconut palms sway on white sand. The historic lighthouse dominates the island from the highest hill, while paths in the Atlantic forest lead to natural pools. Flum, Norway. At the bottom of Orland Fjord, red wooden houses mirror themselves in the cold Norwegian waters, surrounded by very steep mountains. The Flom Railway, one of the world's steepest, develops among waterfalls and tunnels carved into rock to reach the mountains. The small port welcomes cruise ships and local boats, while hiking trails lead to breathtaking panoramic points over the fjords. During summer, moreover, the midnight sun illuminates the fjord waters, while winter brings the northern aurora dancing in the Arctic sky. Tossa de Mar, Spain. A maritime village protected by medieval walls, which stands out on the Catalan Costa Brava. The Vila Vella, which is the fortified historic quarter, preserves watchtowers and walkways, which offer panoramic views of the coast. Sandy beaches are protected by rocky coves, while the restaurants serve fresh fish and Catalan specialties. The historic center preserves traditional houses, and here the voices of fishermen still echo as they tell stories of the sea. Pienza, Italy. In the heart of Valdorcia, Pienza was designed as an ideal city by Pope Pius II in the 15th century. The central square is surrounded by the cathedral, papal palace, and town hall, creating a harmonious composition in line with the canons of Renaissance architecture. The center streets instead follow a precise urban plan, while the walls offer panoramas over cypresses and Sienese hills. Pienza is also famous for pecorino production, which is a goat cheese aged in the surrounding area's natural caves. Cochem, Germany. Along a bend of the Moselle, half-timbered houses mirror themselves in the river, among terraced vineyards. We find ourselves in Cochem, with an imperial castle dominating the valley from atop a rocky hill. Vineyards descend in steep terraces to the riverbanks, producing some of the region's best Riesling. Traditional German houses have colored facades and sloping roofs, while historic taverns serve local wines and regional specialties. Morcote, Switzerland. Lake Lugano welcomes among its shores a Ticino village where pastel-colored houses reflect in alpine waters. The Church of Santa Maria del Sasso dominates the settlement with its monumental staircase and Renaissance frescoes. Historic villas with Mediterranean gardens instead alternate with fishermen's houses. The small port hosts pleasure boats and steamers connecting lake localities, while panoramic terraces offer views of the Alps. Český Krumlov, Czech Republic. A bend of the Moldava guards a medieval town, dominated by the Czech Republic's second-largest castle. The historic center preserves the original urban layout, with Gothic, Renaissance, and Baroque houses, which follow one another along cobblestone streets. Artisan shops and historic taverns keep traditions alive, while street artists often animate the squares. The town, furthermore, has remained practically unchanged since the 18th century, so much so that it's considered a jewel of Central European architecture. Sighișoara, Romania. Transylvania hides a medieval village where Vlad the Impaler, the real Dracula, was born in the 15th century. Fortified walls enclose merchants' colorful houses, while the clock tower still marks the city's time today. All streets climb toward the citadel, and the center preserves Saxon medieval architecture with half-timbered houses and internal courtyards. During festivals, moreover, the citadel comes alive with jugglers and musicians, bringing back to life the true atmosphere of the Middle Ages. Leavenworth, United States. The Cascade Mountains of Washington State host an American town completely transformed into a German village. In the 1960s, the local community decided to adopt Alpine architectural style to revive the economy, creating a corner of Germany in the United States. Tyrolean-style houses with flowered balconies and Gothic signs host breweries, pastry shops, and traditional Bavarian goods stores. The surrounding mountains instead offer ski slopes in winter and hiking trails in summer, while the Wenatchee River crosses the valley. Monsanto, Portugal. Among the granite boulders of the Castelo Branco region, develops a village where houses are built using natural rocks as walls and roofs. The inhabitants have been able to exploit existing rock formations, creating dwellings that seem to grow from the stone itself. The medieval castle crowns the highest hill, while narrow alleys wind among granite blocks, creating a natural labyrinth. Traditional Portuguese houses, furthermore, adapt to the terrain's morphology, with doors and windows carved in spaces between rocks. Civita di Bagnoregio, Italy. A tough spur challenges erosion in the valley of Calanchi, supporting a village that is slowly disappearing. The village is reachable only through a pedestrian bridge, while stone houses cling to the cliff's edge, defying time. Continuous erosion, moreover, threatens the village's survival, which has lost much of its original territory over recent centuries. The population remains only a few dozen inhabitants and guards ancient traditions. Essa, France. A cliff on the French Riviera supports a medieval village where every stone tells centuries of history. Houses climb along paths carved into rock, while the exotic garden on the summit offers incredible views over the Mediterranean. Medieval streets are flanked by shops and artisan workshops, which sell Provençal perfumes and soaps. The ruined castle crowns the village, while giant cacti and tropical plants grow in terrace gardens. Mürren, Switzerland. Suspended on a natural terrace of the Bernese Alps, there is a village where cars are forbidden, and the air smells of snow and firs. Traditional dark wooden chalets face extraordinary panoramas, which extend to the Jungfrau. The village is reachable only by cable car or rack railway, maintaining an atmosphere of alpine isolation. During winter, moreover, it becomes an exclusive ski resort, while summer attracts hikers who walk the flowered paths. Primošten, Croatia. On a small peninsula of Dalmatia develops a fishing village where white stone houses mirror themselves in the Adriatic. The historic center preserves traditional Mediterranean architecture, while the church on the hill offers panoramic views of surrounding islands. Terraced vineyards descend to the sea, producing indigenous wines, while olive groves dot the coastal landscape. White pebble beaches, furthermore, are protected by rocky coves, while the port welcomes fishing boats and tourist yachts. Göreme, Turkey. A village carved directly into the volcanic rock formations of Cappadocia, called fairy chimneys. Cave houses offer natural shelter from summer heat and winter cold, and Byzantine churches hide in the valleys. Hot air balloons color the dawn, flying over these lunar landscapes, while local inhabitants still live in some caves, maintaining ancient traditions alive. Göreme, furthermore, represents a unique example of rock architecture, where volcanic nature has created a fairy tale landscape. Giethoorn, Netherlands. Here, roads don't exist. Only canals, bridges, and pedestrian paths, which connect houses scattered along grassy banks. Houses with thatched roofs face waterways, while wooden bridges connect properties in an aquatic labyrinth. Inhabitants move with silent electric boats, while pedestrian paths develop among flowered gardens and reed beds. Historic farms, moreover, preserve Dutch rural architecture with barns and stables, which testify to the territory's agricultural vocation. Rothenburg up der Tauber, Germany. Medieval walls enclose a historic center that has remained unchanged since the 14th century. Along the Bavarian Romantic Road sits this medieval town that seems straight out of a Brothers Grimm fairy tale. The market square is dominated by the Gothic town hall and the astronomical clock, which marks the hours with animated figures. During Christmas markets, furthermore, the city transforms into an enchanted kingdom, with lights and decorations illuminating medieval streets. Tepoztlán, Mexico. At the foot of sacred mountains in Morelos State, pre-Hispanic traditions mix with colonial architecture. In the village of Tepoztlán, colorful houses face stone streets, while the Sunday market sells local crafts and traditional Aztec medicine. The Tepozteco Pyramid crowns a rocky peak, reachable through a path crossing pine and oak forests. The mild climate year-round, moreover, favors the cultivation of tropical fruit and ornamental flowers in home gardens. Pucón, Chile. Located on Lake Villarrica's shores, this town is dominated by the active volcano of the same name, which rises to 9,341 feet, or 2,847 meters. The city lives on thermal tourism thanks to natural hot springs, which flow from the volcanic subsoil. During the austral summer, it becomes a destination for those seeking outdoor adventures, including trekking, rafting, and volcanic climbing. The center hosts traditional Mapuche wooden houses, which mix with modern structures. Positano, Italy. Clinging to an Amalfi coast cliff, develops vertically, with colorful houses descending toward the sea. The dwellings follow Mediterranean architecture with domes and terraces, which once served for lemon drying. Narrow alleys connect the village's different levels, while the main beach is reachable only on foot or by boat. Once it was a small fishing village, but today it lives mainly on tourism. Seyðisfjörður, Iceland. Hidden in an eastern Iceland fjord, counts barely 700 inhabitants, but guards one of the country's most vibrant cultural centers. Colorful wooden houses date back to the 19th century Norwegian period, when it was an important commercial port. Today it hosts the only maritime connection with continental Europe through ferries to Denmark. The rainbow painted on the main street has become a symbol of welcome, and the international artistic community has chosen this place, moreover, for creative retreats. Piran, Slovenia. Protruding into the Adriatic preserves the appearance of a Venetian city-state. Houses with red roofs face directly onto the sea, while narrow alleys lead to the main square, where Giuseppe Tartini's statue stands. The medieval walls still protect the historic core. The bell tower of St. George's Church offers panoramic views of the coast. In summer, moreover, the terraces on the sea become gathering places for residents and visitors. Jaisalmer, India. In the Thar Desert, this town was built entirely from yellow sandstone and shines under the Rajasthan sun. The 12th century medieval fortress dominates the city, and there are several palaces rich in decorations. Traditional Indian houses with protruding balconies and internal courtyards offer relief from desert heat. Markets sell embroidered textiles and silver jewelry, while traditional musicians play in the old city squares. Villa Langostura, Argentina. Nestled on Lake Nahuel Huapi's shores, maintains the atmosphere of an alpine village, but in Andean Patagonia. The Arrayán forest forms a unique ecosystem, with trees with cinnamon-colored bark. During spring and summer, it becomes a haven for hiking and outdoor activities. The center, instead, is rich with shops and workshops that prepare artisanal sweets. Wood and stone architecture, finally, reflects the European origins of the first settlers. Grindelwald, Switzerland. Surrounded by the north faces of the Eger, extends in an alpine valley at 3,392 feet or 1,034 meters altitude. Traditional wooden houses are distributed over green meadows, with views of the most famous peaks of the Bernese Alps. There are mountain chalets and hotels with traditional alpine architecture, often adorned with flowers on their balconies. Mountain trails start directly from the town center, and it is precisely this unique position that offers a rare combination of accessibility and isolation in Europe. Marsaxlokk, Malta. Nestled in a natural bay on the southeastern coast, it is home to the island's main fishing port. Traditional bright-colored boats float in the port waters, with the eyes of Osiris painted on the prows, which serve as protection according to ancient beliefs. The bay has shallow and transparent waters, while local architecture mixes Maltese and British influences. Local limestone houses, moreover, face directly onto the sea, with waterfront restaurants serving fresh fish just caught. Hallstatt, Austria. The wooden and stone houses climb up the mountain, creating a cascade of rooftops that reflects in the waters of the lake of the same name. Boats cross the lake every hour, offering ever-changing perspectives of the village. The bell tower of the Lutheran church stands out against the sky, becoming the focal point that has made this town the most photographed subject in Austria. The historic center, on the other hand, develops along a single narrow alley, with the fishermen's and miners' houses that have flowered balconies jutting out over the water. Matera, Italy. Carved into the limestone rock of southern Italy, it's a miracle of human ingenuity and primordial beauty. Its sassi, ancient cave dwellings carved directly into the rock, create a unique urban landscape, so much so that it has been chosen as a set for numerous biblical films. The rock churches, with their centuries-old frescoes, testify to a deep faith and an ancient history. In the evening, Matera transforms into a living nativity scene, with thousands of lights dotting the city like stars fallen from the sky.